this evening is John Corey Whaley, and in his book, Where Things Come Back, witty, sardonic Cullen Witter agonizes over the disappearance of his beloved brother Gabriel, while everyone else in his stifling, dull Arkansas town thrills to the apparent return of a long-extinct woodpecker. Simultaneously weaving in a young missionary's crisis of faith, this groundbreaking coming-of-age novel fuses kidnapping, romance, arcane religious text, ornithology, and a belief in second chances. Please welcome the Michael L. Printz Award-winning author of Where Things Come Back, published by Atheneum Books for young readers and imprint of Simon & Schuster Children's Publishing, John Corey Whaley.
Thank you for coming. I'm not going to do any more words off script because that would be very dangerous for everyone in this room. Hi. I have 2 copies of my speech, so I'm going to make sure I don't read it twice because that might really be bad. Okay. Boy. Let me start off by saying thank you. Wow. And good night. Let me start by saying thank you 1.5 billion times to YALSA, ALA, Book List, and the Printz Committee. You gorgeous bunch of book jockeys really did it this time. You've gone and changed everything. That you all love my strange little stories so much means more to me than you'll ever know. Thank you infinitely for this. I promise to stare at it with a proud, devilish grin on my face at least 3 times daily. And to read my own bad book reviews while pressing my cheek against it and laughing at it. You have never given me the power to shake off all the haters, and for that, I thank you 1 billion times more. And I want to add a special thanks to every single librarian in this room, and every single one not in this room. You do something remarkable, you know that? You connect teens to worlds beyond their imaginations, and in doing so, you give them the power to create their own worlds. In the age of Facebook, and Twitter, and YouTube, you continue to do something that most people fail to do. You enrich their lives with something that can't be turned off, something that can't be logged out of, something that never needs time to buffer. You give them lives on paper and ink that will never go away. God bless you for that. And to those kids, those teenagers who have supported me and offered me high fives and knuckle bumps and called me asshat over the past year. Thank you for reaffirming my faith in your generation. For proving to me that young people actually do care about a lot of things aside from texting and snooky. Although, can you believe just having a baby? OMG, right? And to Christine, Maggie, Daniel, Myra, and Craig, it is a tremendous honor to be recognized alongside such wonderful, talented people. Congratulations to all of you. And now for some semblance of a balanced, planned out, and semi-structured speech. Oh boy. I am a creature of habit. But let me rephrase that. I am a creature of bad habits. I bite my nails, I curse too much, I eat too much ice cream and candy, I correct people's grammar, and I am sometimes overly cynical. And yes, I have the bad habit of worrying about things well before they present themselves as worry-worthy. So I wasn't sure how to say thank you to the massive amounts of people who have changed my entire existence. How does one do that? How does one, using just words and nervous speech and hand movements, tell a group of amazing people that he can barely think about them without breaking into tears? How does he say, I owe you every single moment of happiness and stupid whimsical magic that has been this crazy ride? It's impossible to transpose the feelings I feel through words. So, I thought maybe I can do this through some new agey telepathic means. So I'm for real. So let's pause. Let's pause for me to stare awkwardly at all of you and see if it works. Did it work? Okay, so maybe there's still a few of you left. Maybe you have AT&T. A few of you who sadly don't have good reception. So now what do? I'm thinking, and I realized that I should do what I did when I was writing Where Things Come Back. And would come to a situation that literally froze me with fear and confusion. I need to approach this whole thing as if I am Cullen Witter. Now, if you're familiar with the story at all, and if you're not, please see your way out. Oh, okay. then you know that the main character, Cullen, is obsessed with book titles. He collects them and hides them in a notebook under his mattress. This, of course, was stolen directly from my own childhood and college years, in which I would, instead of actually writing stories or books or anything useful, collect hundreds and hundreds of book titles in cheap notebooks or moleskin journals or poorly named folders on my desktop. So that's what I have to do. I have to deliver the remainder of this speech in book titles. Titles that would and will somehow attempt to say everything I need to say. And so, I'm getting water first. Even I gotta laugh, I'm telling you. And so book title number 1, The Right, spelled with a W, man for the job. I was teaching school in Shreveport, Louisiana, home to William Joyce, riverboats, and a statue of Elvis Presley, listed in order of importance. And I had been trying to get my manuscript into the hands of an agent for going on 3.5 years. And I was tired. I was frustrated. And I was teaching school like a mindless zombie and taking 2-hour naps at 3 in the afternoon, every day. And then eating massive amounts of takeout and watching 30 Rock. That was my life. So I get an email one afternoon from a man named Ken Wright. And he says he wants to read the rest of my book, says he thinks I have something here. And I jump up and down and almost slip in my kitchen and almost hit my head on the sharp corner of the counter before sending him the rest of my manuscript and checking my email 1.8 million times for the rest of that day. I get a reply reading something like, "Thanks, pal. Glad to have this. But I get a lot of submissions, so please note this may take 6 to 7 weeks to get to." So I breathe heavy. I shake it off. And I am ready for rejection. The same rejection that my book had gotten countless times from countless other agents in big old New York City. And then, 6 days later, 6 days, boom, an email from Mr. Wright. Was it a mistake? Did I send the wrong file? Was it so bad that he just gave up and changed his mind altogether? No. Ken had read the book in one day and wanted to speak with me on the phone about working together. And speak we did, and work together we did. And Ken sold the book within 3 months, calling me 2 days before Christmas from an airport and telling me that we had an offer. Here's that conversation. Me, an offer? Like, it's going to be a real book. Ken, you're going to be a published author, pal. Me, silence. Awe. Life-changing inner brain explosion. Ken. That first email was nice, but I had no idea of how much it would change my life. I had no idea that I had just gotten the best agent in the business, and no idea at all that I had just been introduced to someone who would be a dear friend for life. Your guidance and kindness have been more than I could have ever expected, and for that and for everything, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You, pal, are a class act and one of my personal heroes. Thank you. Book title number 2. She writes in green to spare my heart. On my first trip to New York City, I met Namrata Tripathi, whose beauty and intelligence instantly intimidated me into speechlessness. I was also nervous about where we would have our lunch meeting because, well, I'm a terribly picky eater. So Nami chose a nice Japanese place right near the SNS offices, and I was so relieved to see chicken fried rice, you have no idea. Relieved that I wouldn't have to explain my odd eating habits to this classy New York professional with her big words and Metro card. But then I did it. I said to her, out loud like a dummy, I said that I had been nervous about the restaurant and why. I am my own worst enemy. What followed then was our entire lunch meeting being consumed with what foods I will and will not eat. Nami was fascinated, enthralled even, and that's when I knew that we were meant to be. In fact, every trip I take to New York now includes some new food adventure with Nami to see just how far she can test my limits. And then we worked on Where Things Come Back. I got the first pass with Nami's insightful remarks scribbled throughout in green ink. Not red, not harsh, fearful, you screwed up red, but green, my favorite color. How did she even know that? I've taken to calling Nami my literary soulmate, and it's hard to explain just how serious I am when I say that. Nami was able to see things in this book that I couldn't see, able to advise me how to say things she knew I was trying to say, but with which I struggled. I never once felt threatened, or intimidated, or out of place during the entire process. And she gave me what I think has become one of the most important things about this book. She told me to treat the setting like I treated my characters. To not take for granted the experiences that I've had in a place like this, where my readers haven't. And that changed this book for me, and I think it changed it for everyone. Nami. I'm so honored and blessed to have you as not only my editor extraordinaire and literary soulmate, but also as my dear friend. Getting to know you and your beautiful family has been one of my favorite parts about the last couple of years. And the idea that I get to work on more books with you is too freaking awesome to describe. I adore you, dear friend, and I can't wait to work on a million more books with you. What a break. Book title number 3, I'll have to talk to my people. It started as a joke. Way back when my career as an author had just begun, I would answer phone calls from friends and pretend to be someone else representing author Corey Whaley. Then as time progressed and the book made its debut and I started booking events and the like, I realized at a certain point that I actually did have people now. People to look after me and send me places and tell others about my book and give me this interview and that one. And people to do so much more. It's very important to me that John Anderson, Justin Chanda, and everyone at the team at Atheneum and Simon & Schuster Children's knows just how overwhelmed with gratitude I am for their awesome work with this little book that could have very easily flown way under the radar and into oblivion. So those of you at SNS who number far too many to be named, thank you. You guys have made this way more fun than I ever could have anticipated. I actually feel like I've somehow managed to break some rule of existence and birth myself, into an entirely new, awesome family. For everything you've done, are doing, and have yet to do for this and all books, thank you so much. Book title number 4, The Whole Fam Deadly. I'm one of those guys who was blessed with a cool, laid-back, and open-minded set of parents who never pressured me to do anything I didn't want to do, and never once told me to stop trying for unrealistic dreams. Parents who consume books and quiz me on vocabulary and correct my grammar and stalk me on Facebook and Twitter. For all of that, and so much more, I want to say thank you to Wayne and Karen Whaley, who couldn't be here tonight. But, oh wow, wrong page. But who are so infinitely supportive and loving that to imagine any other childhood with any other parents would be impossible, ridiculous even. This award, Mom and Dad, I hope someone's filming, is for you. And to my friends and family back home, the ones who read my crappy short stories and poems for years and years and listened to me drone on and on about this book idea and that one without ever finishing a thing, this award is also for you. And to my new friends here tonight, there's a lot of you, authors and librarians and the like, oh boy, thank you for your ongoing encouragement and support. It would take way too long to name all of you, but just know that I love you. And I have appreciated every conversation, every couch and guest room, and every shared meal that you've provided over this past year at Bookjoy. Book title number 5, Woodpeckers and Angels and Zombies, oh my. In 2005, when I was a senior in college in North Louisiana, I was driving down the interstate on my way to my parents' house to do laundry and steal food from them. I downloaded a podcast from NPR's website, because that's what all the cool kids do, right? This podcast was the first and only podcast I had ever downloaded onto my iPod, and I'd done so because it involved my favorite singer, Sufjan Stevens. and his writing a song about an extinct bird in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. I'll be honest and say that I didn't care anything about this bird. Hadn't given it two thoughts even. I just wanted to hear the new Sufjan song on the way home, and this was the only way to do it. So I'm listening, and instead of just playing the song in its entirety, they intersperse interview clips from townspeople in Brinkley, Arkansas, all discussing what it means to them that their town has suddenly become world famous for the possible sighting of a long extinct woodpecker. What? And that's when it happened. I heard it in their voices. In all of their voices, this hopefulness laced with a thin line of dread, this desperate plea in their words for it all to be true, for their small, seemingly inconsequential town to mean something, to have a second chance to be part of the world. It instantly reminded me of being a teenager, and especially of being a teenager in Spring Hill, Louisiana, where I felt like nothing for so long, where I watched people waiting and waiting for their second chances and never getting them. This was the story I had to tell, the one I was supposed to tell. Really? A woodpecker? That's the one I was supposed to tell? But I kept listening to these people, and their familiar southern accents, and their hope, and their dread, and to Sufjan's song in the background. I thought about second chances, and God, and wings, and things that fly, and angels, and being a teenager, and being a teenage boy in a small town in the South, and being a teenage boy in a small town in the South that suddenly becomes famous for the most absurd thing you've ever heard of, for something coming back from the dead. And then naturally, I thought about zombies. And then I passed this road sign shortly thereafter for two small towns in North Louisiana, Ada and Taylor. Ada Taylor, she sounds like a lovely girl, I thought to myself. And then I passed another town sign, Cullen, I say aloud. Well, that seems like a wholly original name for a main character that surely won't pop up in any soon-to-be worldwide pop cultural phenomenon sagas about teenage vampires. Thank God I took away the woodpecker's fangs. And then after teaching school for a year, I pulled a very Bon Iver move and wrote most of this in my parents' camper in the Arkansas woods over one summer. Yes, a camper in Arkansas. Listen closely when you open the book and you may hear the faintest sound of banjos. And Alright now, come on. And I titled it after a nickname for the actual ivory-billed woodpecker, Good God Bird. Or Good God Bird. Or Good God Bird. You see why we went with where things come back, right? I've been accused many times of writing a sad, even disturbing story. A story in which a teenager goes missing, a young man loses his faith and takes his life, and countless others search desperately for the meaning in all the madness around them, and sometimes, gasp, don't find it. And that's why I had to write this book, I think. I had to try as best as I could to answer a question that I've been asking myself over and over and over again since I was a teenager. Is it possible to grow up in an impossible world? A world that gives as much as it takes away sometimes. A world that plays cruel jokes and confuses us and sometimes surrounds us with the wrong people and leaves us in the wrong places at the wrong times. I'm not going to be egomaniacal enough to assume that this book answers this question for anyone other than myself by telling Cullens and Gabriels and Bentons and Cabot's stories. But it is my deepest honor to hear that it might mean something to all of you. That makes the world more possible for me. My favorite author, Kurt Vonnegut Jr., made up an entire religion in his novel, Cat's Cradle, Bokononism. A religion based solely on the idea that everything is BS. He called it FOMO. But that embracing this FOMO will keep you healthy and happy and at peace. In this religion, one is said to be cosmically linked to other individuals in a significant manner. These individuals all form what's called a karass. And a karass, you see, works together, either knowingly or completely obliviously, towards an ultimate shared goal or theme, better known as a wampeter. But I don't want to talk about FOMO or wampeters or karasses. I want to talk about can-cans. What are can-cans, you non-Vonnegutians may be wondering? Well, a can-can is the instrument through which one finds his or her karass. Come on. And you see where I'm going with this, right? This book, this seemingly unlikely combination of letters, numbers, and punctuation marks, is my can-can. It's given me my karass. It's given me all of you fellow authors, all of you publishers and editors and agents and bookish type, all of you bloggers and reviewers, I love me back. And, of course, all of you beautiful, passionate librarians. I just added that. I didn't know how to spell it. Needless to say, after this year of my life, my crevasse is so big it barely fits in this room. I've got a huge crevasse. And you're all a part of it, for better or worse. Book title number 6, Come On Get Sappy. It probably won't surprise you to find out that I worked at my high school's library when I was a senior, and that I loved every minute of it. Mrs. Nella Hathaway, my sweet librarian in Spring Hill, let me label and shelve all the new books because I think she knew I wanted first dibs. I still remember the first time I saw The Purpose of Being a Wallflower. You know, with that beautiful light green cover and the strange little photos in the corners, which I got signed earlier. I checked it out the day we got it, and I read it that night, and came to realize something important, as I had with other books, like The Catcher in the Rye and Slaughterhouse Five in 1984. I came to realize that these authors meant something far greater to me than I'd ever noticed, that their ability to use characters to speak thoughts that I had only imagined as my own, had only dared think I alone could actually think, that the way they used words to make me feel all these emotions that the world around me tried so hard to suppress was magic. It was some kind of beautiful magic. And I wanted in. I wanted that power to possibly change the way a person perceives the world around them, to alter existence. Don't we all want a little piece of that? Don't we all want to leave some dent in the side of the world? These books changed not only the way I read, but the way I looked at the world through my teenage eyes. The way I listened to people speak, the way I trusted words and actions and motives. These library books changed my life. And it comforts me to know that they sit waiting to change more and more. We always hear some new story about this book or that book being banned for inappropriate content and whatnot. We see parents angrily protesting a book that discusses sex or drugs or abuse because you know those things only exist in grown-up land. But we so rarely see the kids, the teenagers. We so rarely hear what they have to say about it all. I've done a lot of school visits this past year, and with no offense to anyone present, it's the questions that teens bring me that are the most thought-provoking and honest ones. They want the truth about everything, and they know exactly when they're not getting it. And that's my hope, I guess. I hope it can always, no matter what I'm writing, no matter what direction the story takes me, I hope it can always be honest for them. And it comforts me to know that there's a place where teenagers can go to find the answers and the truth, a place full of people waiting to share their favorite stories, happy and tragic, a library. The one place with infinite answers in an impossible world. Close our libraries, and you close our minds. In the final chapter of Where Things Come Back, Cullen Witter ruminates on the meaning of life. He quotes the mysterious Dr. Webb, who, if you haven't gathered, is a shrink at some point in the future. Dr. Webb says this: life has no one meaning. It only has whatever meaning each of us puts on our own life. I'll be honest with you all and tell you that I struggled for a long time with what my meaning could be. Why was I on this earth, and why was I born to be who I am? In my 28 years of life, I thought my meaning was to be, in this order, a scientist, a psychologist, a paleontologist, a journalist, a Methodist preacher, a filmmaker, an anthropologist, and a school teacher. I was wrong about those. Way wrong. And now you've all done something for me that I can never repay. Something that I couldn't do alone. With this award, with this year, with your support, kindness, enthusiasm, and love, you've all given me my meaning. And, lastly, book title number 7, Lovely to Tweet You. So, I consider myself fairly good at beginnings and not so great at endings. At least in speeches, that is. So as you all look on me now, probably wishing I would shut up already so you could get a cocktail, I'm thinking of how rare an opportunity it is to get to say so much to so many in over 140 characters. But, for your comfort, and for mine, I'd like to end the way we're so used to ending things these days. And you can help me out a bit if you like, especially those of you thumbing away at your smartphones. I'd like to end the best way I can think of to say thank you to librarians and libraries. A simple phrase with a weird little symbol in front that says it all. And because I've always wanted to say this with a dramatic gesture, tweet this. It says save a library. Thank you all so much. Good night.